За ингээд podcast сонслоо та бүхэндээ нэгэн шинэ дугаар хүрэхэд бэлэн болсон байна. 2026 оны хамгийн эхний дугаараар та бүхэндээ IASJ олон улсын jazz сургуулиудын хурал болох тухай хэлсэн байгаа. Тэгээд Мартин Зенкрийг өөрөө оролцуулсан бол одоо бас нэгэн энэхүү хурлаар ирэх гэж байгаа. Одоо ирсэн байгаа. Тэгээд явчаад эргээд ирэх нэгэн гахалтай уран бүтээлчийг танилцуулах гэж байна. Тэгээд подкаст маань бол англи хэл дээр та бүхэнд хүрэх байгаа. Тэгээд подкаста эхлүүлье. Зочинтойгоо танилццгаая. Hi Paul. So, would you like to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure, thank you. My name is Paul Tynan, and I'm a jazz trumpet player and composer. Travel internationally doing a lot of playing, but I'm also a university professor at St. Francis Xavier University, where I teach jazz.
Nice. So this is your very first time in Mongolia. So tell us about your experience so far, and then also could you compare with what mental image you had before, like landing in Mongolia, and then the reality of it, comparison.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start with the compare part first. So I had before I came to Mongolia, and it is my first time here, I watched some documentaries on the history of Genghis Khan, so I got to see some of the landscape and the people and the traditional clothing. And when I was a young boy, my uncle gave me a recording of some Mongolian throat singing, and I was fascinated by that. So I had this mental picture in my mind of the traditional dress and the wide open steps. And when I got to UB, I did see some traditional clothing, but it's a very modern city. It's a very clean city. The people are incredibly friendly and generous, and it's been an incredible experience playing music in the city for the people who live here, and it's been a really just incredible time so far.
Could you tell us a little more about what you noticed about Mongolian jazz music scene, and what's the crowd like,
The Mongolian jazz scene is young. If you compare it to places in the United States or Europe or Canada, there's generations of musicians who have been playing that music. But here in Mongolia, it's relatively recent. I think the State Conservatory here started their jazz program maybe about 12 years ago or so. Yes. And so they've been, students have been working and learning how to play the music since then. And I have to say that especially with the short amount of time that the music has been in the city, I'm incredibly impressed. Yeah, the young musicians here are wonderful. They are really into the tradition of the music and internalizing the music and checking out the recordings of the masters and studying it as a true art form. And we've gotten to work with a bunch of the students here at the conservatory, and then some of them have come in and sat in with us at the band at the Fat Cat. And man, it's been a real treat to play with these young musicians. And they, if you compare them to young musicians their age doing what they're doing anywhere else, they're keeping up. They're doing very well. Yeah.
That's so great to hear, because I really felt it from the show last night. I was lucky enough to see you guys, and then the way that you invited two student young musicians on the stage was so amazing, and I felt so grateful for them because they get to play with you guys, so tell us more about the band formation, and how did you guys start playing as Paul Tynan and Kenji?
Well, the band includes Martin Zenker on bass, who is based in Mongolia here and sometimes in Germany, and our piano player is named Paul Kirby, and he lives in South Korea, and Kenji Ome on saxophone, and Anthony McKelly on drum set, and myself. And Kenji, Anthony, and I all work together at the university in Canada, and Kenji knows Martin and Paul, the piano player, when he was living in South Korea.
Oh.
So there's kind of like this mutual connection. And when I was living in Kathmandu last year, I got to spend a bit of time playing with Martin.
Oh.
So there's in Nepal. So we all kind of know each other in this kind of little way, but we've never actually played together as a band,
really?
right? So this
You couldn't tell. We
group
couldn't tell.
mission accomplished. So yeah, so this was our first time getting together as a band. We had a short rehearsal here in this room for about an hour, and then we went on stage and played 2 sets of music, and had the time of our lives. It was super fun.
You could tell that you guys were really having fun with each other. So, and I always wondered, like, how does this happen? Like, for example, during IASJ,
Yeah.
I read that the first day is the grand jam session where all the musicians are lined up waiting to get on the stage and jam together. Yeah. So tell us more about IASJ.
So ISJ is the International Association for Schools of Jazz, and every year they have an international conference. It's been in many places, but this is actually its first time in Asia, I believe. I've heard them say that. So that's really exciting that it's here in Mongolia. And so over 100 jazz musicians from all over the world, Australia, Canada, the United States, South America, Europe. I believe there's some people coming from Africa too. We are all, we're all coming here to Mongolia to hang out for a week and play music and talk about how to teach how to teach jazz, and there's a whole bunch of young musicians coming as well, and they can all meet each other and play music together and make connections, and they're all going to meet here in UB in Mongolia, and then after the conference they're going to go all back out over the world, so they're all going to know each other and have these connections, which is really fascinating, and they're going to remember that it happened here, which is like, that's magic. That's cool. They'll never forget it.
It's true magic. Tell us more about how you came to be a trumpet player, your background in music.
Okay.
And then there's a recurring question on our podcast, which is, what was your very first memory of music?
Okay. So my parents were in the arts. My mom was a professional musician, playing Irish folk music, and my dad was a professional Irish dancer. So I grew up in that world. So I'll tell you, my first experiences with music was them taking me to their gigs, right? So they would drag me to a thing where my dad would be dancing and my mom would be playing the music, accompanying the dancers. And I was probably like 3 or 4 or maybe even younger, but I don't remember those, right? But yeah, so they brought me to all their gigs, well, not all of them, but a good amount of them. And so that was really fun. And I got to hang out in that community. And sometimes it would be in a bar late at night while my parents were doing their thing. And here'd be me, like 8 years old, hanging out in a bar. Give me a beer. No. Then how I started as a trumpet player. So my mom, as a professional musician, just played by ear, right? She couldn't read music and never had any lessons. So when I expressed interest in music, she was like, you have to be trained classically. That's what she always said. So in the schools where I was living, they had music programs. And I entered that, and I started playing trumpet when I was 11 years old, and I've been playing ever since. And I mostly played classical music when I was younger, and I started playing jazz in my early 20s.
Okay. That kind of makes sense because I feel like some of the Mongolian jazz musicians that I've met also went from starting as a classical pianist and then switching it up when they became like late teens.
Yeah.
Do you think it's got to do a little bit with the rebel in the teenagers, maybe?
Yeah.
To unlearn the classics and just like improvise.
Yeah, maybe, but jazz musicians are cool, We hang out, we do cool stuff, we play cool music. I found it was my experience that the classical world was a bit more rigid, and while the musicians definitely hung out and did stuff together, the hangs weren't as fun or maybe boisterous or maybe like you get in a little trouble or, so and jazz is more of a come as you are type of music, and you bring what you have to the table, and it's about personal expression, and classical music sometimes is more about like the art is in the interpretation as opposed to jazz where the art is in the improvisation.
So you obviously are also a composer.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about what core emotions you want your listeners to feel through your music?
So that's one of the greatest things about being a composer is like when your music makes somebody feel something, whether it's happy, sad, anger, frustration, disgust, joy. I love it all. My music, personally, I've been told that a lot of my music sounds sad or melancholy, sad music. And maybe that's just me trying to express what's inside me. I'm like the sad clown. No, I don't know. But it's like sometimes like Berlin by Day you mentioned, that's more of an aggressive kind of high energy kind of thing. So we had a night out in Berlin after a gig one night where we found ourselves in various clubs doing various things and having some beers and getting into trouble, as you said, and we ended up like going back and chilling and sleeping, and then spending the next day kind of walking around in somewhat of a fog, and experiencing the hustle and bustle of Berlin, and that's kind of what that song's about.
When was
it right before COVID? Yeah, so we were in Berlin and before COVID.
And I also love how it's almost like a time capsule of how you were in those days.
Yeah.
And then how that time in the world was like.
Yeah.
Right? Because before COVID and after COVID, it's such a interesting.
Yeah. The
Like
new normal, they said.
Yeah, the new normal.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us more about a song or a composition or a memory that you that was so intense that you just had to write, like compose?
Oh man, a lot of my tunes are like that. I write music about people, places, and things. So here's a great example of one of my recent pieces. Last year, I spent a good portion of the year living in Kathmandu, Nepal. And there was one night after a gig, I was heading home, and I lived down this alley. Om Shanti Gali was the name of the street, or Shanti. That was the name of the street, and it was quite small, and there were some lights flickering, and sometimes the power goes off, and as I was walking down the street, the power went off, and all of a sudden it was super dark and kind of like somewhat scary, but then as your eyes adjusted, you could see what was there, and it was kind of like I ended up in this other world, right? So I tried to create this composition that was like as you were walking down a dark street where you could kind of see what was going on, the shadows, I created this composition that was based on that, and I called it Om Shanti Gali after the street that I lived on.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I haven't recorded that one yet.
Really?
No, yeah, we've played it live a few times. Like played it at the Cat Jazz Festival in Kathmandu last year, and I've played it a bit in Canada, and I played it once in California. But it's not on the program for the band tonight, unfortunately.
So, how do you manage to tour so much, maybe, and then make time for composing and maybe recording?
Well,
and then teaching.
Yeah.
A full-time.
Yeah, full-time teacher. So the teaching is sometimes the most difficult to juggle. See, in Canada, we have at the university, our semesters are 12 weeks, and there's two of them. So that's 24 weeks out of the year that I am supposed to be on campus. Now, we also have a week break in the middle of each one of those. And if I get a really big gig or an important gig, I can, and it's not too long to be away, I can get the time off. Like, for example, back in February, I took that week that I had the break week and then a couple days on either side, and I played music in Delhi, in India.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So had a bunch of gigs over there, and I did a workshop at one of their music colleges. And so yeah, that's how I do it. And then I'll be at home for the rest of the semester. And then as soon as
During that time.
yeah, and I'll be writing and practicing because I have an office with a studio and a piano, and I sit at the piano, play chords, play music, and then I'll write it down, and then there's my tunes. Right? It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the basic process. And then, for example, as soon as school was over, our graduation was May the 4th, and on May 22nd, I was on a plane coming to UB.
Nice.
Yeah.
I asked this because in Mongolia and in UB, it's difficult to live as a full-time musician.
Mm.
So it's always trying to juggle between work and then maybe or school. So I just wanted for you to maybe give an inspiration and advice for those who are thinking, oh, I really want to play jazz, but then they have to still work and
Sure.
maybe words of encouragement.
Well, I still work, right? Like I teach at the university. I'm very fortunate that I teach jazz, right? But sometimes there's all sorts of other things that you can do to support yourself, and there's no shame in that if you're dedicated to your art and your music. And it's okay to have a day job and still be a musician, right? That's okay. And in a way, it makes it a bit more interesting because you don't have to play the gigs you don't want to play. Like, say there's a certain kind of music that you don't want to play or a style that you don't want to play. If you were just a working musician, like a jobbing musician playing every gigs, you might have to play a polka gig followed by a country gig and then a wedding gig and then maybe a jazz gig, right? In order to make money to pay rent and buy food and all that stuff. But if you like have a job working in a music store, or if you have a job working in anywhere, that can be what you do for times during the day. And if you end up in a band that does well, maybe you go to part-time, but you still it keeps you grounded too, right? Having a job and working with people on that level is important, and there's nothing wrong with it. And in the jazz world, I only know of maybe one or two individuals that don't teach or do something in the industry other than play, right? I'm sure there's others, but there's, the ones that I know. Yeah. So everybody's teaching, or they're working in a music store, or they have a job at a bank. There's this famous story about one of Canada's best bass players who had a day job working in a law office. So he would do that during the day as a law clerk, right? And then he would play all his gigs at night. And he's one of the best musicians in our country, very well respected, played with everybody. But his job also understood that, and if he needed to take time off to tour, he would, just make sure that they were cool with it and go do the thing. So that's just it,
Yeah, that's just how
flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility. So I wanted to ask you, I guess if you have a different day job, then you miss it more, and then maybe the only chance when you get to play is so much more passionate.
Yeah.
But then, does it ever get too much of jazz for you because you live and breathe jazz, and then like you teach jazz?
Yeah, I mean, I have hobbies outside of music that I do. Like I'm a blacksmith, so I make knives, and I do leather working as well as a hobby outside of music, and that's also creative, right? Like creating things, but at the same time, it's not music. So
You get to
I get to disappear from music for a little bit, and then I'm excited about going back too. So yeah, it's all about the balance, right? You got to keep yourself hungry.
Nice.
Like sometimes when you should eat a sandwich and you don't eat a sandwich,
Sandwich gets more tastier.
that's right.
Hunger is the best spice.
Sometimes.
So tell us about. I'm sure when you first listened to jazz and now teaching it, you've got your inspiration from so many artists.
Yeah.
But then, could you give us our listeners a few artists, name a few artists who really impacted you and then helped you shape how you improvise?
Sure.
And then, like, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple mentors, musical mentors, which were very important to me, and still are very important to me. Some of them I know personally and got to spend time with, and others I only know from their recordings. But I would say maybe my biggest influence as a composer and as a trumpet player is a trumpet player by the name of Kenny Wheeler, who passed away a few years ago. And he was just an absolutely incredibly lyrical and wrote beautiful music and played so he had a style all of his own that I really love. And then there's some other musicians, trumpet players that are really important to me. Another person by the name of Freddie Hubbard, who was a really great, really aggressive trumpet player, fiery trumpet player. And then, of course, Miles Davis his music was a huge influence to me and how I play, and how he was always evolving and being innovative and kept being creative. And I think Miles and his career, like the sense of discovery for him, always doing something new and different, that I find intoxicating.
So, can you tell us more about what other genres you listen to? And then, as a teacher of jazz, does it change how you listen to other genres? Do you like dissect it, or how do you listen? Like, how do your ears work?
Yeah. So I like a lot of other kinds of music other than jazz. And I went through a period where I cut all of that stuff out because I was like what they called a jazz snob. I was only listening to jazz. And then I was like, but I also love this stuff, so I'm going to allow myself to listen to it. And then I really enjoy it. So it's like, why like take that away from me? So when I was younger in school, like in grade school, I loved punk rock music. I loved the energy that it had, and I thought that was really quite amazing. Going to shows, mosh pits, all that type of stuff. I was super into that. I had a green mohawk for a little bit. I know, right? Nose pierced, ears pierced, all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I like music that has a lot of energy, or music that makes me feel something. So, like, I like some of the more romantic and impressionistic classical music, like Ravel and Debussy. I find that stuff like really emotional. I like the high energy that EDM or dance music has. I find that to be really it propulses you forward, and in the same way, on some levels, hip hop, freestyle hip hop artists, I find those musicians incredible. They're like improvising just like jazz musicians are improvising, and but they're doing it with words, and it's like, man, it's mind-blowing. So I like music that has a lot of energy and intensity, or music that makes you like have some kind of emotional reaction. Sometimes you're listening to a beautiful piece of music, you get goosebumps, maybe you feel like you're gonna cry. It's like, oh man, powerful stuff. So yeah.
Have you cried listening to?
Thanks for asking that. Yes.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Also. So, do you want to share that memory with our listeners, maybe?
Oh man.
Is it too personal?
Well, let's see if I can edit it down. Okay, so one of my mentors that I was, I'll tell you a story. This is a very personal story. So I teach a class on the history of jazz music at the university that I'm at, and my mentor that I told you about, or my biggest influence, Kenny Wheeler. I had the opportunity to meet him numerous occasions, play music together. I'm even on a recording that he did. He was very special to me, and he was very good to me, very kind to me. I'm sure he was to a lot of people. I'm not unique in that regards, for sure. But I remember when I got the phone call that he had passed away. And 2 days later, in my jazz history class, I was supposed to give a lecture
Oh, wow.
about his music and his life, because he's also Canadian too. So it's, we cover that in the class. And we were playing some of his tracks and his music, and I lost it in front of all my students.
Oh.
And I pulled it together, finished the class, and I remember there was this very sweet student, and she came up to me after class, and she's like, are you okay? And I said, I will be. And it's like, even now, it's like, thinking about it, it's, yeah,
it kind of makes
yeah, it brings it back, right? So, yeah. And sometimes it happens when I'm just privately listening to music, or sometimes I'm watching a movie and there's a really fantastic scene, but the music is so powerful. That can also do it.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Really appreciate that. So, there are, I think, a lot of our viewers will be aspiring musicians, maybe, and some of them are already like musicians who really want to start playing jazz, So, do you have a jazz 101? Like, what's your introduction to jazz, like, lecture start like?
Okay.
Maybe give us like a short version of it, like a 1 minute version
Okay.
of it.
So the most important thing that a young musician who wants to learn how to play jazz can do is really listen to the music. Like, they need to. It's like installing software or installing an app, right? You have to get it in here. It's super important, and the only way you get it in here is through here, right? So, listening to the music as much as possible, like immersing yourself in it. So you understand how it's supposed to feel, how it's supposed to like sound, what the forward motion is like. Maybe you start to learn to recognize some of the forms or some of the melodies, or how some of the shapes or the architecture of the improvisations, right? So that's really the most important thing that a young musician who's getting started in this music can do. And of course, they need to study some music theory, right? So they understand how the harmony works, and they have to practice their instrument or their voice well, because jazz, on some level, is a virtuosic music, right? I think it takes a lot of skill to play the music well. So you have to be quite good at your instrument, or I should say this: the better you are at your instrument, the easier it will be to play some of the music in the jazz tradition.
Let's go a little bit back to IASJ, and
Okay.
then so I wanted to let our viewers know that it will be held from July 6th to 11th,
Yeah.
which is right before NADAM, actually. Have you heard of NADAM Festival?
No.
It's like a national festival of three manly sports, which is wrestling, archery, and then horse racing.
I have heard of this. Yes, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't remember the name. Yes.
So it's called NADAM, which literally translates to like festival, like
Okay.
festive. And so our whole city is gonna be filled with is it correct to say filled with jazz music?
Yeah. So during the IASJ conference, there are tons of concerts in all sorts of different venues. There's jam sessions. I think there are 16 jam sessions happening throughout the week, 4 different ones at in various points and times during the day. So there's going to be a lot of jazz in UB for that week. Yeah.
Yes, so please look out for IASJ events coming to you soon. And then for more information, you can go on their website,
Yeah.
isjmongolia.com, as
That's
I remember. Yeah. So back to you, and I was wondering, what do you look for in jazz music now? What do you want from it, and then what do you want to give through it?
Oh man, what do I want from it? Everything. No, what do I want from it? I personally, the music has given me so much already. It's given me incredible friends. It's given me an international community. It has given me, um, uh, it's given me a sense of purpose. You know, um, we often say it's not what we do, it's who we are, right? You know, right? So the music is not what we do, it's what we do, what we are. And I think your question was like, where do I see it going, or the second
No.
part to the question?
The second part is it's very like personal, like I'm sure it's a personal journey. So
Oh,
what do you want to what did you want from it before, and what do you want from it now, or like what do you want to give through it also?
well, yeah, okay. So it's important to me that the tradition continues, right? And I'm just part of the tradition, and everybody has their own experience. And that's one of the reasons why I like working with young people, because I can, they become part of my tradition, and then I become part of their tradition, right? So it's like passing off the torch kind of thing. But what I want from it now, um, I'm fairly content with how things are. Um, it would be always great to have. I always like going on an adventure. I'm a pretty adventurous person. Um, I don't often sit still. When I'm moving quite a bit. So I'm really looking forward to see that the next place that the music takes me. You know, where am I going to find myself? What interesting things, interesting people am I going to meet? Am I going to get out of this alive? No, I'm just kidding. But like, yeah, like how am I going to experience that type of thing? And I think that's maybe what I still want from it. That whole sense of discovery and adventure is important to me in my life. The thrill of discovery, I should say, because it's incredibly fulfilling to me to encounter something new. And maybe that's why I'm enjoying Mongolia so much, because everything is new to my eyes and my ears, and the smell and the taste, and it's so amazing, right?
So what would you like to say to all the fellow musicians who are coming to ISJ, who are maybe watching this
Oh,
podcast, and maybe give a little preview of what they can expect during ISJ in July?
come with an open mind, come with an open heart, be flexible, and just be ready for just an incredible adventure. You're going to meet so many warm people. You're going to have just a fantastic time collaborating and meeting all the jazz musicians that are here. But we're all gonna be giving so much to this community. So do yourself a favor and take something in from the Mongolian community as well. Walk around the streets, see the people, talk to the locals. Experience Mongolia. Don't just experience a jazz conference. Be in the moment and explore, because there's so much fantastic things that are here. That's what I would say to them.
That's beautiful. So on that note, I would like to say thank you for taking the time. I'm sure you have so many things lined up. You have a show tonight.
I do, yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time to share so many wonderful stories and um, your experience here with us. So, and we will meet with you soon with another episode with another guests from IASJ, and I feel like there will be so many young musicians from all over the world and from Mongolia who will have a life-changing experience here.
I hope so.
Yes. So thank you Paul so
You're welcome.
much. За ингээд үзэгчд сонсогчдтой хамт байсанд баярлалаа. Подкаст сонслоо та бүхэндээ сүүлийн дугааруудаараа яг IASJ сүүлийн үеийн дугааруудаараа IASJ-ийн тухай хүргэж байгаа. Тэгээд маш олон юм гайхалтай хүндтэй зочдыг та бүхэндээ хүргэж байгаадаа бол би маш их баяртай байгаа. Тэгээд удахгүй бас та бүхэнд үргэлжлүүлээд олон өөр өөр жаз хөгжимчдийг уран оролцуулж жаз хөгжмийн тухай яриануудаа үргэлжлүүлэн та бүхэндээ хүрэх болно. Тэгээд I wanted to ask another last question,
Okay.
which is, can you recommend songs or compositions for our viewers who are getting into jazz?
Oh.
For the first time.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of people start with Miles Davis's Kind of Blue as like their first jazz record, and that's an incredible first jazz record. If you want something a little bit more adventuresome, maybe you could listen to the music, something that I like a lot, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. There's a whole bunch of those albums which are really great. One of my personal favorite records, and it's kind of a powerful record, would be John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. When I first got that record, the first time I heard it, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I listened to it 4 times in a row, back to back, and just sat in my room and was like awestruck. So if you haven't been listening to a lot of jazz, that would be, if you want a powerful experience, that's a powerful experience. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope to see you soon. За ингээд дараагийнхаа дугаараар бүгдээрээ удахгүй уулзна гэж найдаж байна. Тэгээд хамт байсан бүх сонсогч нартаа баярлалаа. Podcast сонслоо байлаа.